Welcome once again to The Sage. Thank you for always being with us. This journey would be nothing without you, our wonderful audience. We've had exciting weeks in recent times. We've discussed topics that are particularly important and dear to us on the set, but also, I'm sure you agree with us, with you, our audience. But let me start at the beginning. We exist, all of us, we're living in a time of unprecedented hardship for the people of this country. Hardship because we're witnessing inflation in a manner we have never done before. And tragically, inflation that, if anything, is hitting the very food we eat more than anything else. Our people, our silent majority, are literally starving. Many of us can't afford to buy the things that are in the markets and the shops. We put out an episode in which we called passionately to government and leadership to do something. The circumstances demand urgent attention. Many of the policies and programs that need to be corrected and addressed are indeed macro level and leadership issues. But in the interim, we agreed and came together also to say that we cannot fold our hands and just die. We all can begin to do something to put food on our table. Every family can do something, no matter how small. And so began the exciting series we've had in the past few weeks, where we explored the possibility indeed of doing so. And we dealt with many interesting food on the family topics. We dealt with vegetable farming, we dealt with fish farming, and we also dealt extensively with poultry farming. In other words, putting a significant proportion of the food our family needs on the table because we are growing them ourselves. And so this is the concluding episode in a series that has run for, I believe, about 9 weeks now. If you missed it, don't miss it. Go back and watch the many previous episodes of this very, very important and life-saving issue on our YouTube. But this last program, this last episode is to recap, because that's how important it is. I will do my best to try and sort of summarize it, but it doesn't replace your making sure, if you didn't view it, or to go and view, or to view again. Let's start with the first one. We started with vegetable farming for the family. I always qualify that. For sure, if you want to make it a business, a trade, it's very much needed in this country because we don't have food, we don't have enough. But the issue here is that every family, no matter where you live, no matter how much space you have, you can farm, you can grow your vegetables. And in that very, very interesting show, in which some experts came on set and discussed with us, we looked at many interesting aspects of vegetable farming. What kind of space do you need? And we were able to prove you don't need a lot. Even if you live in a flat, even if you live in an apartment, even if you live in relatively confined space, you can grow vegetables in so many kind of ingenious containers, pots, pans, even tires, name it. You can grow vegetables effectively. We also discussed the fact that, luckily, providentially, that actually most of our common staple vegetables grow with, little stress. Name it. Is it ugu or tomato? Is it water leaf or bitter leaf? Name them. With minimal care and a little soil, right water, and so on and so forth, they will grow, they will thrive, and you will have food, vegetables to supplement your table. We discussed how to care for them. We discussed the potential hazards in doing it. We discussed how to make sure you take care of pesticides and so on. And we also discussed the important fact that these ones you grow are in fact organic and therefore much, much more nutritious for your use. You are in control of the pesticide or insecticide or whatever is used for the growing.
In my garden, I have ugu, so I don't buy ugu. I have water leaf, so I don't buy water leaf. I have shoko, I don't buy shoko. So if I want to make food, I just walk into the garden, take what I need to take, and I go back in to cook what I need to cook. And aside that, the fact that you grew this from seed, the joy of watching it grow, and then harvesting what you planted is absolutely priceless. Aside that, I feel if everybody goes into growing their own food, the demand for it would reduce. And I want to believe that the cost of food items will also reduce. Yeah.
If you have the time, you could start collecting your waste separately. You can start collecting your organic waste separately that you can use for your manure. Get some loamy soil, not too sandy. Well, I think there are some plants that grows in sandy soil as well, but not too sandy. And what I do is I mix it with chicken dung, which adds some nitrate to the soil. That's I knew from reading. So oftentimes what I do is, if I want to do something, I just go online to look for a related video, somebody that's done it before, and I just watch some of the clips.
We then went on to talk about poultry farming. Or perhaps let me do the fish first. That was, I think, the biggest revelation for me as a person. To know that actually you can grow a significant proportion of the fish for your family in little containers. Our experts on set demonstrated to us, informed us, that with a 50-liter jerry can, for instance, you could well grow up to 50 fish or more. They again went into some detail, told us how important it is that to do this, to embark on this, you acquire high quality seedlings, fish seedlings. Told us where to go and get it, told us how to care for the fish, how regularly we must need to change the water, to put and to feed the fish regularly. They provided a great deal of amazing detail. Amazing detail for something we had always thought was so complex. One of the guest experts we had on the set showed us how, from her experimenting in this, she was indeed able to grow the fish small scale for her family and has subsequently turned it into a business. We didn't just discuss fish farming or growing the fish. We also had the privilege of having them there to discuss processing of the fish. I was excited when we were discussing it because processed fish, particularly dry fish, is a standard delicacy and staple for almost every Nigerian family. And it was heartening and encouraging to know that practically any of us can do it. They shared the how of it, the technique. How do you clean your fish? How do you process it? How do you use it?
fish farming is is a deliberate act of getting small fish. We call them fingerlings. You put them in water and let them grow as you feed them, and you also change the water from time to time. So it's a very simple technology. It's not rocket science. So fish farming is very simple. Get small fish, put in water, and they grow and become the fish we eat. So it's not rocket science, very simple. So fish farming basically is getting fish. But however, there's a scientific aspect of it. Before it gets to the fingerling.
Yeah, what is a fingerling?
Okay.
Many of us are ignorant about these things,
Okay, so fingerlings are they are the baby fish. They just hatched them within the first 8 weeks, then they can now grow. After fingerlings, we have the jumbo fish. That's about a month thereabouts. They're actually very small, right? Now, how do we even get to that point? The experts, this is not for family production, I won't say, but the experts will get the egg from the female fish and get the semen from the male fish and hatch them, then produce these small fingerlings.
What is the rationale for even growing fish and for even processing it and preserving?
Fish itself is that it has omega-3 nutrients in it, which helps the heart, which is good for the heart.
So the taste of the pudding is in the eating. The concept may be exciting, but how do you tell our audience to do it? What do they need to do and know so that it's a success? Let me start with you.
Thank you very much. Fish farming is very interesting. Besides the health importance, it is the most affordable protein, It also comes with some level of prestige. When you have your fish farm beside your house, your visitor comes around, you can show them your fish farm, say, come on, take a look. It's a little prestige that, you have this growing behind your house. This is because you can do it small scale behind your house. In fact, fish farming does not necessarily require a lot of space. A tank is enough space to do fish farming. They grow in water. Whatever you can put that can contain water to keep the fish inside is enough space to grow fish.
Wow.
And I actually went to use my kitchen oven. The oven I use in the kitchen, that was what I used for my first production, for my first processing of dried fish. I did it in my kitchen. And so I would like to also encourage women, mothers, by the time you grow this yourself, yes, and fathers, of course. By the time you grow, you can grow this yourself, and you can use the oven in your kitchen to produce it if you don't have the fabricated ovens for business purposes. Yes.
And of course, last but not the least, we went on to discuss poultry farming. That was a revelation to me in particular. I had always thought poultry farming was a very complex thing. Something you needed to be a real expert, something you needed to be very careful about so that all your chickens don't die, and so on and so forth. And yet, the experts we had on set were great. Three actually very knowledgeable young men who made a complex task simple. They talked us methodically through it. From, first of all, doing the very first important thing, which is to decide, what do I want to grow the chickens for? Is it for egg, or is it because I want the meat? Because that very much will influence the type of poultry farming you do. That was important. They spoke about what is the age of the chickens you want to bring in. Do you want the day-old chicks, or do you want the older 3, 4, 5 weeks chicks that they call broods? That was the first time I learned that name. They give such important information. That's why you shouldn't miss it. You must go back and watch the original episode in which these brilliant young men educated us and informed us and guided us. They talked about the kind of accommodation you need to have in place to house the chickens. They talked about the feed, how important it is, depending again on the type of chicken you were growing, to get the right feeds. They talked about how to care for that habitat, because if you're not careful, they can catch an infection and die. They had such a lot of useful information. They talked about when the chickens will be ready, either for harvesting the eggs or, if it's the meat you're interested in, for putting on the table. It was a most informative and educational discussion.
For a family to start a poultry business, it's really, there are some certain things that a family needs to consider first in order to start a poultry business. Number one, you have to have the idea, the knowledge of why do you want to do this, and are you doing it for egg or are you doing it for meat? So if a family is going into a poultry production, so you have to consider some factors. Also, that's the planning and the preparation for it. So in preparation, we have to talk about the type of birds that you have to go for. So if at all you want to go for a laying bed, which they call layers, it's for table egg, where you can be getting eggs as a table egg. And if it is for meat, so you rather go for broilers, whether you can use this as a source of meat and a source of protein as a meat product. So that's the first consideration that you have to.
The type of bird
Birds,
and the primary purpose of that bird.
That.
Yeah.
This is something you breed by yourself. Like there are many birds out there, and they feed them with a lot of chemicals for them to grow well, to grow fast, not grow well, please, to grow fast. So these chemicals, they give them boosters. Some chemicals, they make some chemicals. So these chemicals are harmful. They've entered the meat. So you coming to eat that meat, you are under disadvantage. But the one you feed by yourself and you know how you fed them, the chances of that one affecting you negatively is lower.
How long would it take for the brooder to grow to ready for the table? About how long would we need to devote to the task of rearing and feeding and so on?
If you buy the year old, it will take around 6 to 8 weeks.
So perhaps if you are going for broilers for meat, and then you bought a brooded one, so you just have to buy starter or super starter for additional 2 weeks to make it 4 weeks altogether, and also then just finish it with finisher. So, but it is when you just get there to any retailer's shop, just tell them the business that this is the age of your birds, that which feed do I buy
the more appropriate
for
very,
them.
very important information.
So just ask them, and also perhaps when you talked about this feeding nutrition is very, very essential. It's is a paramount aspect in when it comes to farming, poultry farming.
And one, I left very satisfied and happy that every family can indeed embark on it. And that with some amount of care, you can do it. And it's so important, given the cost of meats or chickens in particular, everywhere now. And so, I hope I have shown you that the last few weeks of discussing vegetable farming, of discussing fish farming, of discussing poultry farming, provided important, detailed information that would allow you, indeed allow every family out there to embark on some of this, because you must supplement your family's budget, your family's meals. If you hope to buy everything, as we have perhaps done in the past, from the market or the shops, the escalating prices will make it almost impossible. But let me share a few last thoughts, which I personally consider so important. One is that a big revelation was the fact that in doing the three, actually, or at least two, they mutually reinforce each other. What do I mean by that? The experts told us, for instance, that actually the water you use to clean and remove the, and change the environment of your fish is great fertilizer for your plants. How about that? And that many people who do it commercially now begin to do the two together, because there it's a cheap source of your fertilizer, and natural at that. We were told, that some of the vegetables and cast-offs from your garden actually provide food, important food for your poultry. And so for a family that is doing the needful of trying to grow at least one or two or three of these varieties of food that we are talking about, we'll find that one is supporting the other. It is synergistic. There's a spiritual and emotional pleasure and satisfaction in nurturing and growing. And at this time in our country, when we have so many things to contend with, it is well worthwhile. So thank you for having been our companion on this thrilling journey. We again passionately encourage and appeal to you, everyone, as many as can in this country, to begin to grow something to add to your family's table. I have jokingly said in the past, if you grow too much for your needs, send it to the sage, she will eat some of it. But seriously though, please embark on it. If you missed any of the previous shows, go again to our YouTube and watch it. Read, ask around, improve your knowledge, grow food for your family. We all need it. We thank you for having been with us. Join us next week for another very, very interesting series. I won't tell you what it is now. Thank you and goodbye.